Welcome to the Sideload, where you are once again safe to go outside. I'm your host, Will Sattelberg. Very excited to welcome Chris Wedel back to the program this week. You might remember Chris as the creator behind the YouTube channel Gadgets and Gravel. We had him on last year to talk about both outdoor gadgets as his specialty and then also his transition from writing into video. And I'm super excited to have him back on today to discuss a world that is fairly foreign to myself, robo-lawnmowers. Before we get there, though, Chris and I spent like 10 minutes talking about ISPs and satellite internet before we began the episode in earnest after I hit record, and that led to a whole conversation about, pricing and the state of the internet landscape in 2026. And do you see what I did there? Digital landscaping. It's got a double meaning. I was pretty happy with it. Anyway, we're going to come back to that bit of conversation near the end of it, before we had actually started the episode in earnest, as I'm describing my experience using Starlink for the first time. But before we get there, here's a message from our sponsor, NordVPN. You're probably already trying your best at online security. You don't repeat passwords, you're careful about where you log into your bank account, and anytime you get a weird email, you are always careful if there's a link involved. But if you aren't browsing the web with a VPN, you're missing out on a crucial layer of protection, and that's where NordVPN comes in. Without NordVPN, your IP address and browsing habits are an open book to your internet service provider and potential bad actors on public Wi-Fi. NordVPN helps fix that by encrypting your internet traffic so what you're doing isn't just floating around the network. With more than 9,000 VPN servers covering more than 188 locations, it's also built to stay fast, so you're not stuck choosing between security and a usable connection. And it comes with features that actually matter day to day. Threat protection helps block malicious sites and trackers, while a built-in kill switch helps prevent accidental leaks if your VPN connection drops. If you want to stop risking your data on public Wi-Fi, and trust me, you do, you can save 76% on a 2-year subscription, plus score 4 additional months for free just by going to nordvpn.com/9to5off and signing up for a 2-year subscription. That's nordvpn.com/9to5off to claim this offer. Thanks to NordVPN for sponsoring this show. But like setting it up is pretty simple. It's just plug things in and point it to the sky.
Yeah, exactly. And just just have a generally open area and it'll find where it needs to go.
And so right outside the cottage, my parents have it's because it's a relatively new build. It used to be a very small, like 500 square foot cottage. Over COVID, they rebuilt it, and now it's like a proper like vacation home cottage with these big windows facing the lake. And it comes out onto like this large cement patio. And so I just ran I like opened the screen door a little bit, ran it through the like fabric brush that keeps like insects out, closed the door again, and then just put the thing in. And when they built this, they cleared out a bunch of trees. So the patio has like a clear line to the sky. So it was like perfect. Like I would get minor interruptions every now and then, but like, sometimes like, all it would do is sometimes it would hang for like 10 seconds and then be fine. Like, well, it would reconnect. Yeah. So it worked. I've been trying since I was a teenager to figure out an internet option up there. And this is by far the best we've ever. Because like the other options were like, well, you could, I guess, buy a hotspot and use that shitty LTE connection as a router. Right. And like, but yeah, like, so you can pay $120 a month or whatever. Like awful.
For 20 gigs of data or something.
Yeah, if you're lucky. And those Canadian carrier plans are like make ours look like a value. Like they're awful.
Oh, that's what I've heard. Yeah. I've heard they're terrible.
Yeah. They had 36 month plans like 15 years ago. That's what they were doing. Like when we had 2-year contracts, they had 3. Like it's crazy. All right.
Starlink may end up Starlink may end up going down as like one of the best inventions of the 2020s or something.
I just hope it because it's tied into his SpaceX shit.
Oh yeah,
and his AI shit and his IPO, and I'm just like, Starlink is the only thing that makes that company money, and I'm just looking at it. I'm like, you're just gonna keep. I know it's gonna keep getting worse. Like every 3 months, I'm gonna get an email, because so far it has been every 3 months I get an email that's the thing you are paying for slightly worse now.
Yeah, I remember because I wrote an article. I think I was at XDA at the time, and it'd gone up like the cost had gone up like 3 times. Like when I first got it, the service was like $90 or $75 or
Yeah.
something. And within like a 6-month period is up to like 110. And I was just like, it went from being like a rural savior to an expensive luxury. Like this is what's like getting people connected to the internet and connecting people who can't get anything. Now you're going to go from $70 to 110.
It's everything. I kind of enter into and this is the show now. Chris Wedel back on the show. We're 11, 12
This is how it
minutes
always
into
happens.
recording. This is how it happens. This is the show now. And this isn't even including the 10 minutes we talked before this where I said we should have been recording this. It's nice to see you, Chris. Back outside again, we should say, continuing the tradition.
Oh, yeah.
I just, every service I go into now, I'm like, this is gonna be bad. Like this is going to get bad. I remember my best friend when we were roommates, like during COVID basically, he bought an Xbox Series S, or like he was like, I want to buy a new console. This is right after all those Xbox, like the Xbox and the PS5 came out. And he was like, I think I'm just gonna buy the Series S because it's a good deal. And we like did the math on Game Pass because this was back when you could score. I think he scored like 3 years of Game Pass for like $150. Like,
oh yeah,
nothing. You're paying the price of less than 3 full price games, and you're getting Game Pass for 3 years. Crazy value. And I remember being like, you gotta remember, this is gonna be a bad deal at some point. Like, I don't like, you might hit the end of the 3 years and it's still an okay deal, but at some point this deal is gonna be like, it's gonna happen. Microsoft will get tired of subsidizing this, and I've never been more right.
Oh God, yeah. It is such a great deal, and at the time, like nobody really knew. It was kind of just new, and they were seeing how it was going to do. And Microsoft doesn't have the greatest track record, and then it comes out and it takes off and it does great. And then it got to the point where it's accessible in so many places that's how they're like, well, look at the extra value you're getting it, not just your Xbox, but your phone and all these other handheld consoles that have come out since then.
Yeah, the gaming sphere is like, I don't even know what to make of it. I don't know how you fix it. Like, I don't.
I'm so disconnected from that world these days. I'm like, I fired up my Xbox One. I think my Xbox One, I've got an old one, and I fired it up the other day and got it started and looked at Xbox and looked at Game Pass. I was just like, I remember this being cheaper. Like, what happened to this?
Yeah. Well, that was, I mean, even when it was like, so they bumped up prices like crazy last fall. And that was really when it went from like, this is becoming a bad deal to like, this is a bad deal for most people. Cause it jumped up to like, the plan you would want is like $30 a month.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, so if there's less than 6 games on this thing I want to play in a year, I might as well just buy those 6 games basically, and I'll save money, and then I'll own them. But you'll own a license that they can if you buy a disc and you can play you'll kind of own it. Whatever. Terrible thing.
Yeah, whole other thing. But the current I guess CEO or the leader of Xbox who replaced Phil Spencer, Asha, I can't remember her last name. Asha is her first name. Came in and like one of the things she announced was like, oh, like, you're right, Game Pass got too expensive. We're dialing it back. And it was like, okay, but if you look at, I saw people being happy about this, and this was before all the layoffs and everything, and people are mad again. But when people were like trying to be hopeful, like Xbox fans trying to be hopeful, and it's like, guys, it's still more expensive than it was a year ago. Like, she didn't cut it back to the old prices, and she took off Call of Duty, which, like, even if you don't care about, you're getting less value now. And so it's like, it's still more expensive and has less games. She didn't fix it. She just like put a Band-Aid on it. Yeah, she basically said, we're going to lose this expensive property, and because of that, we'll lower it a few bucks and make people quiet for a while.
Yeah, I that company is so, I mean, like, I've watched them dig themselves into a hole for a decade, and it's like, yeah, they've decided the only way to dig out is to just fire everybody they acquired. It's brutal. It's brutal. It's terrible. But we're not here to talk about gaming. We are here to talk about your YouTube channel, Gadgets and Gravel, which has been going on. We had you on to talk a little bit about the transition from writing into YouTube last year. And you're carrying on, and the channel continues to grow, and you're doing kick-ass work. I greatly enjoy your videos, largely because, and I said this last year, but it's like,
not a lot of people can have. Not a lot of people have their, a leg in each world the way you do. The combination of like outdoor experience, farmland. I mean, literally, if you're watching the video, look behind Chris right now. Like, you know what I mean? Like this rural like lifestyle, and then combined with your love of technology, and you're the expert in those two worlds combining, I think. So you're doing kick-ass work.
Well, thanks. Hang on. Let me chase this duck away because she's going to
I
yell.
think you should leave the duck. I like the duck. I heard that.
As long as she's quiet, she tends to get mouthy after a while, so maybe she'll waddle off.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man, it's different. Like it's a weird like headspace to try and balance both halves of it out sometimes. But yeah, it's cool. Like trying to, when people ask me like, what do I do? And I like, try and talk to them, explain to them or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, how does that work? Like you're doing grills and fire pits and, robot mowers and things like that, but then smart home and wearable and, smart home ecosystems and things like that. It's like, how does that work out? I'm like, I'm just that kind of nerd, I guess. I don't know.
Well, you have struck into something that I think you're really early to, which is that like technology really is a part of like every inch of your life these days in a way that it was even 10 years ago. This was not true. Certainly 20 years ago. But like yeah, even if you go back to 2016, like we are not talking about, we're going to talk about some robo mowers today. We're going to talk about you've had some experience with electric riding mowers. Like all of this stuff was not there 10 years ago, and that's true of the smart home stuff too. And it does kind of all coalesce together. And frankly is a lot more, I think there's a lot more interesting developments in that space than like something like smartphones, which have become more stagnant than I could have ever imagined, probably largely due to the RAM crisis, in addition to just like a stalling of evolution. Like where do you take the phone?
Technological roadblocks in there. Yeah,
exactly. In the same way that the laptop has been the same since the first MacBook Air basically set the template of what a laptop was going to be for the next 20 years.
Yeah. I mean, and it's definitely the space, that outdoor space and things like that are expanding. Like they're trying to find ways. Smart homes trying to find ways to expand and improve that ecosystem of things, and that's always trying to change. But it's a similar situation with phones. They're running into technology constraints. Just engineering hurdles and things to make that different. Smart homes, they're kind of running into, it's more of a protocol and standards of communication between devices and the rest of the network situation, as well as how you're controlling them and stuff like that. So like it's a different set of challenges, and it's kind of that's what I like about being in an outdoor tech space, having some stuff out there, because it's kind of wide open. Like there's so much still to do in the outdoor space and things that can change and evolve in that space. So it's really interesting. Yeah. I mean, technology really is like, it's literally getting into everything. I mean, it used to be, if you're a car person, you're a wrench monkey, you're always playing with grease and this and that. Right. Now you can be, you're a software engineer and you can be a car person. Like it is. And that it means nothing to do with, the motor and, and all the ins and outs of that. So it's kind of crazy how things have changed so much, just, like you said, like in the last decade.
Yeah. Well, and that's where, I mean, not to bring this back up, but that is where sometimes I get scared about things like the lack of affordable RAM, where it's like you start thinking about it, you're like, well, like if everything's a gadget, right, and everything is running, even if it's like just a essentially a Raspberry Pi by any other name hidden somewhere in this, like it does take RAM. Like it feels like most things have a little bit of memory these days. Like are we just like, and I'll censor this later, are we just fucked across the board, right? Like if everything has memory and memory is expensive, and we're watching like the sorts of gadgets that have a lot of memory start to increase in price by $50, $100, $200, $250, is everything going to start going up by, maybe not that to that extent, but $5, $10, $25, $50? Where does that leave? Where does that leave us when we're shopping for things now that everything is a computer? Does that make sense?
Yeah, oh, totally. And that's the other problem. That's also one of those things that they're going to run into, especially in some of these newer spaces when they're running up against these constraints, things like, RAM shortages and cost increases for things like that. Like they're either going to get creative and find different ways, or they're going to have to eat some of the cost, because these are already, like, we're talking about mowers and stuff, like these are expensive devices to begin with.
Yes.
You know, and if you're asking somebody to spend $3,000 on a robot lawnmower for their yard, and then you're going to increase the costs again because of RAM or whatever the shortage may be at the time, like now you're pushing that thing to $3,500, which it was expensive to begin with. And yes, if you're going to spend $3,000, maybe you can afford 3,500, but like it's that's still not somebody you can just straight up ask me, hey, just because of this, you want to spend another $500 for us because we have a shortage? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, well, and the other thing is, I guess, is that when you have a knowledge of like what these things cost and borderline encyclopedic knowledge, right? Which I think both you and I sort of have. Like, if you work in this industry long enough, you just start to remember what things cost. Like, off the top, the amount of like random specs and that have just like baked into my brain because I had to write it like for 3 or 4 embargoes, right? Like, that stuff like finds its way into your head, and for me, because I know this so well, it is one of those things that when I go to spend money on a new gadget, and it's like I see the price and I'm like, I know that's not what it was like 6 months ago. Like I can't.
Yeah.
I have a hard time justifying it. Like I'm trying to make sure that like my dad, who has a very old iPhone at this point, like I'm like I need you to upgrade like now. Like I don't want you to wait till September because you're just going to pay $200 more than you would today for no reason, and you're not going to get a difference. Like, he has an iPhone. He's like, you're not going to get a difference. You're not going to care about the difference between an iPhone 17 and an iPhone 18. So let's just get you on something that is more affordable now, and we can worry about it later. And that, again, that's going to apply to everything. It reminds me of how the only thing I can really compare this to is the car crisis of like post COVID, or the tail end of COVID, like through 2021 to 2020. I don't know. I feel like by the end of 2022 into 2023, prices started to at least like smooth. Like prices are much higher than they were 5 years ago, but they have like at least kind of stopped escalating at the same exponential
climbing
rate.
as fast. Yeah,
exactly. And that's sort of how this feels. Except I don't see with cars. I was like, well, I know what will solve this is the supply chain issues eventually, like supply chain workers going back to work,
returning to normal. Yeah,
exactly. I don't see the solution for this, and neither do analysts kept being like, for the last like 6 months, being like, probably end of 2027 things will start to like even out. And it's like, now those same I did not believe them at the time, and those same analysts are now starting to say 28, 29, 30. Like, yeah, because none of these companies have any like if you're a RAM manufacturer, I mean, we've already seen like 1 or 2 RAM manufacturers leave consumer RAM altogether and be like, we're just going to make for AI companies. Like, but if you're running a RAM company and you look at what Nvidia is willing to pay you for RAM to put in data centers it's helping to build, right? Like, why wouldn't you just take that money rather than like being like, well, but what about, man, what about Kevin out in
exactly.
California wants to buy a gaming laptop? It's like, who cares about Kevin? We're gonna make a bunch of money selling gaming, like you're selling RAM to people who don't care. Like, none of our business. Like, we make 4 times the money. Everybody else suffers. Like, who cares? I don't know what fixes that.
Yeah, human nature has to change. Because,
I guess.
I mean, it's the point where, I mean, this is kind of going to be the new normal of pricing, because they're going to have, for the legitimate shortage that is there, they're going to adjust pricing to kind of compensate for that. They're going to be making all this extra money. And when it gets to a realistic point where they could lower the costs to average consumers, the likelihood of a company doing that is pretty slim, because you're saying, let's pass up, millions to billions of dollars because you want to do this. Now, the nice thing would be to offset that to the company. They keep paying the higher price, you lower it, or, get them an extra. If you're going to be taking all this RAM from everybody else, then we'll, kind of subsidize that cost for the average consumer, for the end user device that's getting that phone, not the data center developers.
But that's not. It's just not how it works. It's such a frustrating time to be like, a tech, any kind of like tech or gadget enthusiast. It really is, because even if putting even aside like personal feelings on AI, like that doesn't even matter. At the end of the day, you're still going to have to pay these prices regardless. And I just it really becomes a thing where I'm looking at I don't know the next time I'm going to buy a new gadget, right? Like
Yeah.
and I'm lucky. I actually kind of, without meaning to, upgraded a lot of my personal stuff over the last not basically before 20, like the last, like through 2024 and 2025, I upgraded a lot of my stuff. So I'm okay for the time being, but what's going to happen in like 2030, some of this stuff
Yeah.
is going to kind of come due to be upgraded. And like, where are we on prices? Is any of this fixed? Did anything come back down in price? Like I'm worried about, I don't know. Cause and it's so interesting, cause it's like, what does that, like, if we've all become, as we're saying, the smartphone has become the center of the world. It's like, if you don't have a smartphone, it can be difficult to be a part of society in some ways, right? Like whether it's just getting
Isn't
around
that sad?
town. It
Like,
is
really?
sad. It honestly
It
is sad.
is.
Like it is frustrating that like the idea that I am now tied to this brick for the rest of my life has honestly kind of been eating away at me a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, whether you
yeah.
like it or not, I mean, there are plenty of benefits and plenty of wins to this and all that stuff.
Of
But at
course.
the same time, like the reliancy on these devices, and this is coming from somebody, I fully admit that I've got my vices with this. Like I'm stuck to this thing, and I'm in the industry because I've enjoyed this stuff for so long.
Yeah,
but
100%.
I can also see the other half of it is it sucks. Like I really don't like it. And raising kids in this, like that's
Dude,
a
I
whole
can't
other
even
set of
imagine.
struggles.
I am, I don't have a kid. But I have certainly, I'm 30 now. Well, but I'm 30 now and have at the very least, like, the thought of like, okay, well, what would raising a kid be like enters into my mind, at a, I don't want to say frequently, but every now and then, certainly.
Sure.
And it's like, there's like, it doesn't even feel like there's a right choice. It feels like no matter what choice you pick in terms of like kids, and I should say I haven't seen Toy Story 5, so maybe the answer is in Toy Story 5.
Yeah.
And I just need to see that movie and that solves all the problems. But the relationship between like okay, well, how much tech do you give to your kids as they're growing up? Because like, it can absolutely harm them. The internet or all of these apps can absolutely harm them in all sorts of different ways. However, that's also where all of their friends are. That's where a lot of like social interaction has moved. So like, how do you balance that? Like it sounds like a nightmare, frankly.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, because that's the thing. Like by not doing anything, by severely restricting, nothing to severely restricted, across an extended period of time, almost puts them at a disadvantage in life.
Right.
Because you have to be fluent with these devices and understand these things. But then the flip side's even more. You can't go wide open because that's a horrible idea because, internet. So there's a whole lot of things out there. And, there's some stuff. So that's, I mean, that, to kind of go into some of the other stuff that I cover outside of like the robot mowers thing. So I do parent tech and things like that a little bit too, and over the years I've been lucky and my kids have been ridiculously spoiled, and I have to continually remind them like this is not normal because I get to test a lot of smartwatches, phones designed for kids and other services and things like that.
Right.
And so, they've been exposed a lot of this stuff through my job and these different services. And there's varying levels of complexity and simplicity across them, but I mean, in the end, it's really, you've got, as the parent, has got to be active in this thing. And it's exhausting because it's ever changing. And even for people that do this all the time, it's changing and things are different. And, it's hard to manage even just the service itself and understand what's out there, let alone know how to run the service that's supposed to be protecting your child. There's a couple of companies that are doing some cool things. And I'm getting ready to get a sample of it, but there's a brand called Pinwheel.
Yeah,
that is kids' smartphones. They have a kids' smartwatch and a few other products, but they're releasing it's basically a landline. It's Wi-Fi connect. It's just Wi-Fi. It is a physical phone. There's no screens. It looks like a classic old landline phone, and it's $6.99 a month if you want to use, and it'll call any phone you want it to call. Parents get to control numbers that come in or out on it. But it's a tethered device. It has to be plugged into the wall. There's no battery in it. So it goes back to the thing where the kid just sits in the kitchen or wherever you put the phone and call. And if anybody has a Pinwheel phone, then it's always free to call those phones, or it's $6.99 a month to do whatever. And so it it kind of, the benefits, I see a lot of benefits. I mean, obviously if your kid's out and about or whatever, but you could also, you can lock the phone down when you're at home so their cell phone's not available or whatever. And the age range is kind of a 5 to 12 is kind of where they're targeting. But it also, the other half of it I like is it starts to enforce and teach communication skills. Because making a phone call, even, watching my kids, call a friend, or if I call them and it's just like, what? That's not how we answer the phone. Like, that's not how we do this. And they'll call a friend, the friend will pick them. They'll just immediately start into the story. I'm like, hang on, let's establish you're there, I'm here. Let's have a conversation, move forward. So because of that, like, it's another one of those things. Like, it's teaching a skill that's kind of gone away because everything is just, so much texting and voice notes and quick video messages, and like having a conversation over the phone is not a skill that most kids have these days.
I've never gotten fully tired of phone calls. I actually think there's a lot of I think the phone call is underrated. I don't know if that's a stupid thing to say, but I love, the aforementioned friend who got an Xbox in 2021, like, him and I do not have, we are both very busy and we do not share an apartment anymore, so we do not have as much time to hang out. But like, honestly, when I'm catching up with him, the best way to catch up with him if we don't have time to meet up and hang out is like, I usually will call him, and like we will have like a 30-minute phone call where like we're just chatting. Sometimes to kill time, sometimes it starts because one of us has a question for the other and then it just turns into a conversation. But like, those, I have a lot of fun on like talking on the phone still, in a way that like I think, and again, I know this sounds ridiculous of me being like remember phone calls, but like there's such a better,
that's more of what I would say. I'm the old one. You're only 30, man. Come on.
I'm 30 now, man. The hair is turning gray pretty rapidly, I will say. It started with one or two.
Terrifying, when I was, isn't it?
28. Few more 29. I swear to God, I woke up at 30 and they just started like immediately. Mostly on the sides of my head. So it's mostly covered up by these.
This is quickly going from being a conversation about technology to just complaining about what we're on now in the good old days. Remember when? But it is. It's true, because it's the world we live in. It's the world we live in, and that's the again, it's the benefit of seeing both sides of the line. Just not just in what I do, but also just in in our life. Like, we're at that age where we've kind of experienced both halves of it, and it's seen it. Yeah. And you're right about the phone call thing. Like, and that's I agree. Like, I'm terrible. I'm not the best at calling people because it goes back to, I'm super busy. Just, hey, quick messages here. There, you checking in? You good? You good? Yeah, let's move on. Okay, cool.
Texting has its. Don't get me wrong. I send many more text messages than I do phone calls, for sure.
Yeah, but it's that thing where. And it's obvious when you actually call the person, like you actually, a person you're friends with, you care about, it's obvious that is the preferred way, because it ends up becoming a phone call that lasts half hour, 30 minutes, an hour. You don't realize, you just keep talking, it's gone, and that's how it works. And that's just how it works. And that's, that's why before we even started, we talked for 10, 15 minutes before we started, and another 10, 15 minutes in the start, is because you text, you and I will text back and forth here and there
every now and then, but
we meet up at an event or something. And so like, it's one of those things like, hey, we haven't talked in forever. And so then you're just like, everything comes out. And that's what happens with phone calls. And so that's the one thing I like, the idea of that pinwheel phone. There's a couple other brands that can think off the top of my head, and it's a cool idea. And I saw it for the first time at CES, and everybody who stopped by, I could hear people talking like, this is so great. Like, I love this. Like, I miss the landline and things like that. And, it'd be great for my kids. And the adults were also like, aside from talking about their kids using it, they're like, I can call any phone. I can do anything. Like, so I might get one just for my house and pay $7 a month to have a landline,
I looked into those, and there's not a good option that I could find, but I earlier this year, because I have been trying, and I don't have the best job for this, but I've been trying really hard to like use my phone a lot less. Like, I've been trying to, to the point where we were talking about earlier about like, oh, I just have to carry this thing around, feeling like you need to have a phone on you at all times. Like, I guess because, so I got my first, we're saying I'm 30. I got my first phone, my first smartphone, not even my first phone, my first smartphone when I was 15, right? So this has been, and I was early to that, and it was because I was interested in technology that led to this job. Like 100%, that was not I was like one of the first people in my school to have like a smartphone, but like, that's half my life that I have been like tethered to this thing. And it has been a little bit of like, am I getting tired of that? Like, am I getting tired of having to feel like constantly connected to not just my family and friends, but everything, every app, every smart connected device in my house. The Little Caesars app that wants to send me coupons, like. Everything is just yelling at me at all times, and it's like yes, you can use, and I use like all sorts of the do not disturb modes and all of that stuff, right? Like you can go through the process of making it more manageable, but god damn, it like sucks sometimes to just feel like you cannot just like, can I just have a moment to watch a movie and not feel like I need to check my phone because what if someone is trying to get a hold of me? Like it's weird to finally be like, I want that freedom, but I do.
Yeah. Oh, 100% get it. And I haven't had a ringtone on my phone. I don't know how long. I have no idea what my ringtone is. It's always on vibrate. I never have it on ring. Like it's 1% of the year, maybe I had to turn the ringer on.
Yes.
And everything's filtered through my watch, which isn't a whole lot better, but I reduce the number of notifications I get that constantly drag my attention. So I only get, certain messaging apps can get to my watch, emergency things or whatever, but I pull all that back, and that's how I kind of reduce that.
You gotta have that.
You can't miss. You never know when that coupon's going to drop.
And
so so I get that. And, but the problem is that as soon as you pick up your phone, you're stuck. Before you know it, you're like, I didn't realize this. I just spent 30 minutes. You check those notifications, you go check an email. Oh, you jump on social media just real quick, and then here, there, and you're done. And it's and it's, I don't know the answer, because obviously the well-being apps do a little bit here and there, but at the same time, like, you're an adult, and unless you got some really good willpower, your willpower must be suspect to begin with, because you need this service to help you keep out of it. And if it's not strong enough to not do it before, are you strong enough not to hit that code to exit out of it, to go in to do what you need to, because you have access, so you're the one in charge of the phone.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was interesting. Google announced around I/O some of the stuff they're working on with that to kind of improve or strengthen how it stops you from accessing those apps, right? It's got those like mandatory wait times or whatever and things like that. But I agree. It's a fully willpower thing. And I have made a lot of progress on it this year. And I've talked a little bit about it on the show before, but like, one of the biggest things I did was I started by just I got really into games for a couple months. Like I was basically just like, instead of watching a movie or TV show at night, I was like, I'm going to play a video game. And because of that, I can't pick up my phone. Like my hands are on a thing that, in like the thing that the entertainment I'm enjoying in the evening requires my direct input to happen, as opposed to a movie or a TV show, which is obviously much more passive. I have now I'm still playing a couple games, but like I have tampered, added movies or shows back into the mix, and it's like, I don't know what happened, but it did fix my brain a little bit, where I can a little bit easier just like watch a TV show without feeling like I have to have another thing in my hand. That's not to say it's perfect or whatever, but like built a little bit of that muscle back of like, no, like we can have one thing. The brain can enjoy one thing at a time, and you don't need to sit on Twitter.
I've become very much aware of that lately too. Like, putting on a show, and then my phone's in my hand, and I'm listening to this ear, and I'm looking at this, and sometimes a video will pop up, and I'll pause the show or mute it so I can listen to the video and then switch. I'm like, this is bad. Like,
what am I doing?
Stop. This is I've got I'll put my phone on the other side of the room, so like I don't touch it. Like it's terrible. It's not a good habit. But on the one hand, the benefit is, because I've finally recognized it, it's lead by example situation with the kids, because I'll catch them sitting there with the TV on and a tablet in their hand, and I'm like, they picked that up from me and mom, so I need to, this needs to get better. So I can't tell them, hey, come on, let's one thing at a time if I'm not doing it. And so, that's one method so far of accountability for myself.
Totally. I mean, it's so weird to talk about this, like the way you would talk about quitting cigarettes, but that is kind of how it feels a little bit, where it's an
addiction.
It really, it's like, this is a real like thing in my, like a psychological element in my brain, or a chemical element maybe even, that is like, you want to, and oh my god, it's the other thing I did. I can't, and I've talked about this, but it's, you got to do it. It's not even just enough to take the apps off your phone. Like, you should take Twitter and Blue Sky and Thread, like take all that stuff off your phone. Even, and it sucks because like it makes work annoying, and like I'm terrible at posting on social media about anything I'm doing at this point because it's only at my computer now. But like, I've taken it off my phone. I'm not even, I used to be logged into the browser. I'm not even that, because like that is its own can of worms. Fully, like I think, you know, every now and then I'll allow myself to like log into one of them for like 5 or 10 minutes, and then I'm always like, well, actually it doesn't, all three of those, Twitter, Blue Sky, and Threads, annoy me in different ways. And so what will inevitably happen, and maybe this is one tiny little benefit of Elon buying Twitter and these social networks, like, you know, forking off into their own different directions, right? Because everybody used to kind of be on Twitter, and now everybody's somewhere or nowhere. Is that like, it doesn't take long for me to go, what am I doing? Like, no, all of this is stupid. I'm not having a good time. Like, regardless of which app, I will be annoyed for a different thing. Or like Twitter, I don't think I need to explain to anybody why Twitter is annoying these days. You know, Blue Sky can be a little bit too. Blue Sky's thing is like, I always think about like the Marge Simpson, like, kids, can you lighten up a little quote. Like, that's how I feel about Blue Sky. Like, oh my god, can we just like have fun for a second? Or like, no, is that not allowed here? And then Threads is just
everything doesn't have to be so serious.
It's like, I get it, man. Like, I get times are tough out there and things are stressful. I agree with you. I am trying to get a little bit away from that when I come onto this website that's supposed to be escapism. But I mean, that's the problem with the internet now. And you were saying we've kind of existed on both sides of this. That's how I feel about the internet, where it's like, the internet I spent all my time on as like a teenager, right? I did, and boy, did I spend all my time on the internet as a teenager, is gone. Like, doesn't exist. Like, most of the websites I went to are genuinely, were either are shut down, were sold off, or are unrecognizable from what they used to be. And like, nothing ever replaced them. They just died. Like, you don't browse the web anymore. Like, where are you gonna go?
No. Well, and it's you know, if you do happen to go to a website and you're just browsing, you're likely going to end up on through some series of links and ads to somewhere you had no intention or probably business being, because everything is so just random out there and nothing. And that, you know, it goes back to like, what do you tell your kids? Like, how do you start allowing access to this thing that you remember as being a place where learning and exploring and finding stuff out and just fun, you know, good, clean fun, right on the web. And it has not been that for a while. Yeah, it's so crazy.
Look, I'm not trying to pretend that the old internet or the internet in general can't be a dangerous place. I spent a lot of time on the IMDb forums as like an 11-year-old, man. Like, I could have been groomed. That could have happened. Like, 100%. I was on there posting about all sorts of movies, again, as an 11-year-old. And those are gone, right? And like probably for the best that nobody can go find the posts I was writing on the forums as an 11-year-old. But you know, it's stuff like that where it's like I don't even, what am I reading? Like, I guess articles are dead, right? Like, for a lot of people, the internet is not a place you read anymore. It is literally just like a place where you watch things, which and that's largely for like younger audiences. But like, TikTok and the ensuing clones of TikTok have basically cemented this attitude of like, short form video is the thing you consume on the internet. It's not text anymore. And you can see that. I mean, you'll know about this for sure, because like, not just because you're producing video largely as your main thing now, but like, you know, if you look at it, I'm sure you see it. You go on Reddit threads, you go on anything about you know, phones, watches, any product, and like what people usually talk about. People used to talk about, oh, The Verge said this and Gadget said that, Gizmodo said this, et cetera, and now it's just like MKBHD and like 5 other YouTubers, right? Like, that's what's listed there. And like, if The Verge is mentioned, it's to complain that The Verge doesn't do video reviews anymore and stuff like that. And so it's like, okay, if I'm not in the mood to watch something, which is frequent because I'm not a short form video guy, where am I going on the internet? And it's just
Yeah.
sad. Like, there's no answer to this. The answer is like kind of nowhere. It's more of a, this is more of a memorial than anything for this old internet that
and
disappeared.
and that was a large reason, kind of why I transitioned out of publication. From being, for as much as I enjoyed, there's plenty I enjoyed about being a part of a place and writing and things like that. And there's, a whole different thing, but I could see as I was in it, I hadn't been in the publishing world for very long. And I could see just from the short time that I had started to when I ultimately decided I'm not doing this anymore, like how much it had changed, like the shift in viewer, like readers,
it's
the
crazy.
shift in the types of articles being written, like everything was shifting. And I was like, I don't like this. Like, this isn't the world that I got into, that I was excited and I loved and like, kind of grew into. And, so I was like, I'm going to look at something else. And, YouTube is kind of the only other option. So that's kind of where I ended up. But yeah, it's such a weird space these days, and going out and going back. And I still go and visit, The Verge and Engadget and Android Central and all these other sites, 9 to 5 and everything. And so, but going there, you can still, like, these sites, like you were saying, that you've been on, you looked at for years, and you go into them now, and I'm like, this isn't the same site anymore. Like, it's so different now.
Yes. And look, I think things evolve, and you have to evolve to meet people where they are. And that's true. To your point, and this is to say nothing about any site specifically. It's just that this is a trend the entire internet is seeing. But from my perspective, which is really the only one I can speak to, I started at Android Police in 2021, and I remember over that summer, so this is before I was full-time, I was still freelance. I remember publishing an article about Android Auto for phone screens shutting down. If you remember the old Android Auto for phones layout, because they were going to replace it with assistant driving mode, and we all know how that went because you remember assistant driving mode. But I published an article, and it did crazy numbers. I think it topped out, the last number I saw on it was over 2 million views.
Oh.
That doesn't exist on the internet anymore. Like, for an article, it just, honestly, like, I'm not going to give specific numbers, but I've never, like, I've certainly not done an article above 1 million cents, right? Like, that is gone.
Yeah, it's got to be a sensational breaking news something, and it's generally got to be tied to something else, maybe Apple related, or something that comes into the social sphere of things and attaches to that in some way. Yeah, it's but it's also and from the YouTube side of things, it's not much. From that side of things, it's not much different. Like, it's unless you're a major creator, like, getting something to just blow up randomly I obviously have no idea what I'm doing because I haven't done it yet, so I don't know. But it's the same thing. Like, it's such a tough place, and in websites, they're competing against so many other websites, and they're competing against other media.
Well, and now they're competing
so
against
much
AI
other,
too. Like, it's even a third thing. And I don't even mean AI written articles. I literally mean Google's AI search results. Like, you're competing against them. Like, you are.
Yeah,
it's impossible. So yeah, I mean, I hate saying I'm pessimistic about it, like, articles on the internet, because I work for a website that publishes articles on the internet, and
does that,
and I like publishing articles on the internet. Although I'm sure if people go to my author bio, you'll notice that, like, I have mostly been podcasting these days, and part of that is like, I know there's a little bit more of an audience here. Like, I know that exists in a way that, like, it is trickier to find people just by I would love to, like, sit down and spend a couple weeks and, like, do deep research on a 1,500-word article, but, like, the question becomes, like, are people going to read it? Like, it's more than ever. Like, the answer used to be, like, probably, like, people will find it. Like, someone will find this, even if it's not as many people as you thought. Like, people will enjoy this. And these days, it's like, there's no guarantee that this will be seen by enough people for you to feel like you got anything back for the work you put in. Like, and it sucks. It sucks.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, and it kind of goes back to, I think part of it is a lot like we were talking before about, watching TV and having your phone in your hand situation. It's similar to that, like, because everybody is so, you know, either I have to watch video because it's just all visual thing. That's just the way the world is. Or it's also the other half of, it's something they can do while they're doing something else. They can have a YouTube playing on the side while they're doing this thing over here, or watching video or listening to a podcast where you can't really read an article and do something else at the same time. And so it's a lot of that is, and I think that's part of it as well, is just that whole forced or the assumption that you have to multitask.
Right, like you hear all these reports about how Netflix mandates certain elements in their movies specifically for characters to repeat information multiple times or to say things that are happening in the scene out loud in order to allow people who are not looking at the screen to understand what's happening in the movie they're technically watching, I guess.
Shows
like they're
to
not
watch.
it's on in the room, and on one hand, it's sad, right? Where you're like, you should not have to meet people there. You shouldn't cater to that behavior because all you're doing is reinforcing it, and it's not good. Like, it's not good for art, right? Like, it is not good for you to have to be like, all right, hey, David Fincher has a Netflix movie coming out this year. David, come here for a second. I know you're enjoying making this movie with Brad Pitt. Can you just make him like? I know you established it in the last scene what he's up to, but can you have him repeat what he's doing in this scene just in case somebody's not paying attention? It's like, that's not a good use of. And David Fincher's probably exempt from this, but you understand like what I'm saying, like.
Yeah,
like you're not going to make masterpieces of art by putting these mandates in of like make sure you have the other, like Matt Damon was like, you always have to, it used to save your best action set piece for last, and now you have to put it first because otherwise people will click off. And it's like, again, you're not going to make a masterpiece. You're not going to make, I'm trying to think you're not going to make John Wick. You're not going to stumble on the John Wick franchise via Netflix, like mandating this stuff, right? Like you have to be able to make an organically crafted film or TV show or whatever in order that is delivering on what it's setting out to do and not delivering on like, well, we know our viewers have like terrible attention spans, so we're just gonna cater to it.
Yeah. Our Adderall induced viewers can't keep up with it because they're unable to focus because they've fried their brain cells staring at 16 screens for their entire life.
Oh my God. Okay. We've been chatting for almost an hour and we have not even talked about any of the stuff we were going to talk about. So let's do a little bit on robo mowers and electric riding mowers, and maybe we could leave it. We'll have to have you back on to talk about wearables because that is its own. I have eventually we'll have the Pebble Round 2 or whichever one is shipping last. The one they announced after the other two. I switched my pre-order to that one. I will eventually have that, and maybe we have you on after I get that, and we can talk about the state of wearables in general.
I need to check. I need to check out the Pebble. I haven't really looked at it recently, so I look back into them.
I've never had a Pebble, and I'm genuinely excited to have one because I do enjoy having a smartwatch. But I feel like this will be the right, for everything I've just said, this might be the right level of like smart but not overbearing, like in a way that like maybe works a little bit better with my entering my 30s, I don't want to be connected all the time anymore, brain. Robo-mowers. So, what are we seeing? This is a world that is I should say is a little foreign to me. I was talking to this was a couple months ago, but 9 to 5's own Ben Schoen and then Android Authority's Joe Maring both got robo-mowers to test out. I think maybe from the same brand as like review units. And they were talking about it. And I'm like, man, it sounds cool. It really does. I'm like the number one thing I want to know about, and we can get to it. You don't have to start here. Is the safety thing, because directly next door to me, and I live. Our houses are pretty close to each other. Is a very rambunctious 5-year-old kid who does sometimes throw a ball into my backyard, which is not a problem. Like he has permission to come into the backyard and grab it. It does. I just see the vision of like me unboxing not even something bad happening. Just me setting up the robo-mower and then having to like look at my neighbors and be like, robo-mower, huh? We're just gonna let this go while your kid plays in the driveway that touches my yard. So tell me a little bit about robo-mowers.
Yeah, I mean, well, on the safety side, varying brands have different things, and all of them do the whole recognition if you get there and this and that.
Yes.
I mean, there's only so much you can do. You can't. The mower may stop, should stop, hopefully stops if they approach it. You can't do anything about them flipping it over and playing with the blades. Like that's a whole other side of things. Yes. So there's no safety measure to keep him from physically flipping the thing over. But
right.
a lot of brands, Segway's one where as you approach it, if you get too close, it shuts the whole mower down and it won't go anywhere until you get away from us, which is things like that are nice. Instead of just like seeing you and then redirecting, it goes a step further and just shuts it down. But
that's smart.
like robot mowers are crazy. They've changed so much. And it's funny is so since I've covered robot mowers in some capacity now for 4 years or so.
Yeah.
And started off like the Husqvarna Automower has the boundary wire and it just bounces off of things and just all over the yard and eventually gets it mowed. And to now where it's so much more advanced and so much easier to use and like the accessibility of mowers has changed so much. And in that 4-year period, it went from, friends and family members being like, that's dumb. Like, why do you have that? It's just a waste of time. You can go out there and mow it yourself. To now, my father-in-law has 3. My mom has 1. A friend of mine just bought one this last week. They're like, yeah, I get it now. This is nice. These are great. So they with the way things have changed. I put a video out a couple of weeks ago that's kind of on where we are in robot lawnmowers and kind of where I see some things going. And a lot of the changes that has really made this easy is kind of the navigation side of things, where before, like I said, you had the boundary wire in there, you had to bury that in the ground, and if it breaks, it messes everything up, to now where you can literally just unbox it, set it down, plug the thing in, put the mower on the dock, log into your app, add the device, and hit go, and it'll map your yard, and then it's done and does it all by itself. You don't have to do literally anything with them. And there's levels of complexity between those and how much, hands-on you get to or have to be in it and things like that. And like it has made it so much easier in the accuracy and ease of use within the app, and the devices, like competency of the devices has increased so much. But on the flip side, you also, just like with any device, they're not all of them are winners. If you see a robot lawnmower, and they typically, depending on the size of how much yard it's mowing, is anywhere from $1,500 to $2,500, and then from there can go way up. If you come across a robot mower that's $600 at full price normally, it's probably not going to be very good, and you probably should avoid it because that is the one that is going to drive into your neighbor's yard and chase your 5-year-old down.
Oh man. It's so interesting. It's I guess I hadn't thought about this, but I feel like you just described the exact trajectory that robot vacuums went down, where it's like, yeah, they're not bad. You have to settle for a bunch of like compromises to not be able to like run a vacuum manually, but like, it can be cool. And then like overnight, one day you wake up and you're like, oh, they're actually good now. And they can do all of the annoyances that, not everything solved, although they robo vacuum makers will not stop putting robot arms on vacuums until every problem is solved. Stairs and socks are the 2 things they're trying to accomplish. But it's so interesting that it sounds very, and to your point, like if you buy the budget, it's not, they're different prices, but if you buy that budget robo vacuum even today, you are going to have that like mediocre experience in the way that you're describing with the robo mower. It's just so interesting that, and it's not surprising because they're very similar. They're using similar technology to accomplish not the same goal, but the same idea of where I need to work down patterns to cover every inch of a space that has been outlined for me. It's interesting to see. It's faster than I would have thought, I guess, that robo mowers have started to approach this phase of their life.
a lot of companies that make vacuums are starting to do robot mowers. Like one of the first ones I had come across was Eufy, and theirs was a very much, it's a very residential, and it wasn't even theirs. Like they'd admitted, like it was kind of a white label machine, and then they put their intelligence into it. But it was very much a residential. You just put it in a space, it's self-mapping, vision mapping mows, and it does a good job. It's fine. It's very much a suburban mower, and it's fine. But like Ecovacs, Roborock, Dreamy, Mova, there's 4 brands there that do robot vacuums and have gotten into the mower space. And, and it makes sense. I mean, it's a similar concept idea. Obviously, it's outside different set of challenges with things. But, when you have the general idea and the technology already to do it indoors, just adapting that to the outdoors, and surprise, those brands do really well with navigation. Some of them are, some of them cut better than others, and some of them have better object recognition and just intelligence across the space. But it makes sense seeing that kind of expand out into that area. And it's, I kind of joked like, mowers put it down and vacuums pick it up, but it's essentially the same concept.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me ask you this: do you regularly, outside of review testing, use like a because you have a large amount of land, and I know some of it obviously use an actual tractor for, but like the portion of your yard that I assume you have like a lawnmower for, like do you rely on robo mowers these days, or are you still kind of leaning towards, are they not quite ready for what you have to throw at them?
I have not started my riding lawnmower, and this will be 2 years.
Wow. Wow.
And my tractor has largely, there's just a few areas I use it for brush hog, and then there's general tractor work. But in terms of cutting grass, I don't. Like I maintain close to 5 acres mowed through different mowers across testing. Like this back here used to be part of the field. And then when we got the house, that portion became part of our property, and we decided to put it back to grass because it's not a big area, and like it wasn't going to be a big loss or gain for us or like that. So we put it back to grass and just literally did nothing. Just said, hey, when you disc the farm ground for the last time, disc that for us, please, and then just leave it. And it's farm grass, weeds, random whatever coming up in it, and I brush hogged it one time last year, and after that, I let the Yarbo Pro mower get into it and mow it down and knock it all down. And it was waist high. I mean, it was tall, nasty stuff, and it wasn't perfect. But after 5 or 6 passes through it, it had it knocked down, and it was mainly I wouldn't recommend doing that. I would mow it first, but I was like, we're gonna see. Yeah. They say it can. We're gonna test it and go at it. And now, I just keep it maintained, and now I can run whatever mower I want across it for testing purposes. And so I've gotten to the point now where it's all what it is, and like that's where we're at now. Is just this, it's just grass, and a lot of that is because of the robot lawnmowers.
Yeah.
Because if I had to mow that myself, to keep it knocked down, the weeds would continue propagating because I'm not going to have the time to do it, and I'm not going to mow it from 3.5 to 3 inches. Like I'm not doing that. I don't have time to do that because it's a big chunk of grass. But because the robot lawnmowers, I can send them out there every other day and just to continuously cut the tops of those weeds down. They give up, and the grass then gets fertilized and grows and does fine. So within basically a year, I've gotten it down to grass, and largely is because of the robot mowers.
That's crazy. I grew up not completely to be honest, my backyard growing up did not look too dissimilar from yours. We had 5 acres total. And so I would say 2-ish of it was done by riding lawnmower. Starting at age 11, that was me. Like I turned 11. My dad was like, "Congratulations, come learn how to mow the lawn."
Yeah,
get it's a job. Because it was around when I got I think like a month after that is when I got my first iPod. I got an iPod Nano, and it, I've always said like I mowing the lawn even today, and I use a push mower here because we do not have enough land where we live to justify a riding lawnmower. No one, I don't think anyone on my block has a riding lawnmower unless they hire a service to mow their lawn. But even today with a push mower, mowing the lawn is not a chore I've ever really hated because the entire time I've done it, basically my entire life, I've had and it's almost 20 years, had the ability to just throw on headphones.
Yeah,
right? And
yeah.
like, first it was music, and these days it's usually a podcast, and it's been a podcast since high school. But like, it's the reason, like, it's the one thing that I've always been like, that sounds nice, but like mowing the lawn is not a chore I hate, and sometimes I actually kind of like, especially in the late spring or early fall, it's kind of nice to have an excuse to go outside, and you're busy, but like you're not really doing much. Like like I'm walking around every inch of my property, I guess, but that's not hard.
100%. I'm the same way. It's like when the early in the season, like I'll usually do the first mow myself just to, it's finally warm enough to get out there and I can be outside and be around it. And there's a few times throughout the year I go out and I'll brush hog some work or do something like that, just because for the same reason. Like before I had the robot lawnmowers in my old house, like I had to brush hog quite a bit, and even with that, I know with my tractor, I was still cutting for 2 hours. Like it was a lot of cutting with that thing still.
Absolutely.
And aside from being hot and dusty and bugs all over the place, running through some of that tall grass, I enjoyed just 2 hours to just be on the tractor, not really have to think and listen to a podcast or something. So I'm the same way. But going back, so kind of tying back into, dealing with kids and trying to raise them in this world we're in now.
Yeah.
Aside from phones and technology and internet, is same with the mowers. And so because I have everything to mow, similarly, like when you're a kid, that's what you do. Your parents, when you're finally able to mow without worry of getting, injuring yourself or breaking things, you go mow. Well, all my grass is mowed with robot lawnmowers. And so I leave just a couple of spots around my barn and sides of my driveway, and I'm like, you guys can mow that. Like that's your one bit of work you have to do as far as mowing the grass. And so I leave a couple of sections for them to mow, and they use battery powered push mowers to do it. So it's just that's the one little bit. But yeah, it's the same idea. I'm like, that's the other thing is like people have been like, friends or whatever, they're like, so do your kids have to mow or do anything? I was like, I'm mean enough to make them still mow a little bit.
Yeah, you purposefully. It's like leaving. It's like I did 90% of the dishes. You have to scrub the last.
Yeah, because I'm telling you, when you leave home, I'm not sending you off with a robot mower. So you better. Yeah,
those are your robot mowers.
Yeah.
No, but like that's a good point. Is that it's a good it's a good skill to have, I suppose, because like how many people are going to be like, I'm going to learn how to mow the lawn at 30 years old or whatever, right? If I buy my first house or something, I've never done it before. And maybe in the future, it really is just everybody has a robo mower. I mean, that's
every house. And just you start selling homes with a mower.
Exactly. Well, so what I was going to say really quickly about the property I grew up on is that like my dad very similarly would and I think I only did it for him like once or twice. Like I don't really have a good reason as to why I never really brush hogged. But he had a tractor and he had a brush hog, and he would 2 or 3 times a year go out and do those other 3 acres. And it would take him kind of probably even longer than yours, 3-4 hours, and he'd come back and soaked in sweat and like dirty, right? And like it looked like awful work. And obviously my dad was not my dad wasn't listening to anything. Like he was just doing it thoughts only, like nothing, no distraction.
Oh no.
But like that's the idea of like you could just put some robots out there and over a few runs, like get that down to like the at the very least the like shortcut field that you would want it to be. Like that is great.
And and not all mowers are going to do that because you're not going to send the Eufy E15 out there to do that, and there's a lot that aren't, to the point like that patch of field I only ran the Yarbo Pro on it initially because it has standard steel mower blades. Now they're short, but they're steel mower blades and not the little razor blades that 90% of robot mowers are using. Those are great in their own way, but you're not going to run that through a field like that. But the Yarbo, and the only other mower I've run through it is Limo, is a brand. They're relatively new. They've only got a couple mowers out, but Limo, the Limo 1 Plus, because the deck, and most mowers have the deck underneath the mower and everything is self-contained. Well, Limo puts it out front, and then it's got kind of like the Yarbo idea, but it's all self-contained. But it's got short, little, small steel mower type blades so it can handle that type of grass. So aside from having other benefits of those blades.
That's interesting. It is a world that like remains kind of foreign to me outside of like your videos on it.
Yeah.
And actually, maybe this is a good closing point on it. And I would encourage people, and it'll be linked in the description. Please go watch that roundup video is great. So go watch that roundup video. That's I think a really good primer on the state of things. Um, sort of echoing my own point. What I was talking about with like my neighbor. When you're talking to your friends about the you're talking about leaving your kids the space to mow a little bit or whatever, what is the stigma around these things like these days? Because I genuinely don't know. Like when you're talking to your friends, like is this a thing where they're like you're letting a robot like do your yard or whatever, or is it one of those, is it more of a like, oh, I do want one of those actually, like where, because no one on my street, or like I have not seen one in my neighborhood, right? So if I were to buy one, I would be the first, to my knowledge, the first person to have one.
Yeah.
And like I don't know how that makes what like, are people ready for this? Like are general consumers, when they see these things, do they go like, yeah, I do want that? Like in the same way that I think a lot of people saw RoboVax and said, yeah, I do want that.
Yeah, I think it's still kind of enthusiast leaning.
Okay.
It's becoming far more common, and I think a lot of it, as you get more recognizable brands, I think, and part of the having the robot vacuum brands, because robot vacuums have become, such a popular and, common thing, that there's known brands there. So when they see that brand attached to a mower, it kind of has a familiarity and a little trust built into it. But, you got Segway is a well-known brand, and they've got robot mowers and they do a fantastic job. But like talking to, just average people, and it's going to vary depending on where you're at. Living here in a rural area, there's the sense of pride of maintaining your own property and hard work and, blue collar, right, and very agricultural focus. And so when you're offloading it, not only I'm not doing the work, I'm right, farming the work out to somebody else, and I'm not paying the kid down the street to come on my yard. So right, there's that whole thing. And so then you got a robot in there, and a piece of technology, and it's just going to break, and it's going to do this and do that. And none of that is false. None of that is wrong. But when you, and this is kind of where like some of my family and friends that have gotten one and now have gotten a few, or in some cases has shown up.
Yeah.
My father-in-law initially got one from me, and just to mow around like his cedar trees on the back of his property, because getting underneath them, weed eater and things like that was a pain.
Yeah.
So he just wanted to mow this berm that had a bunch of cedars on it. Well, then it did such a good job, he kind of expanded it and gave it some more area, and then more area. And then it started to click like, hey, this does a really good job, and I'm not spending hours a week mowing my yard. And, the amount of time it gives back to me to go do things, because, him and my mother-in-law, they're retired and they like to travel and go to the grandkids events and stuff. And so the amount of time it frees up, it's similar with me, aside from the fact that I test these, like the amount of time saved per week in throughout the summer and mowing season is just, it's hard to argue with that. Now, if you've got a yard that you can have knocked out in 30 minutes, you may not see that, but at the same time, you may not want to mow. And then you've got, and the other thing I've talked to about people, especially people that are closer to my age and younger, and mentioning to them like, yeah, it's super helpful. Yeah, it can be gimmicky, and yeah, sometimes it has issues, and I got to go fix it or go retrieve it, or got lost and couldn't get back to the charger, whatever it may be. That still only takes me like 5 minutes. And second, like I also attach it to, what if, your mother or grandmother, needing their yard mowed, and she's having to hire the kid down the streets, or, maybe she's out there trying to mow it at 80. Who knows? That's not uncommon. You could get something like this and set it up for, and it's 90% of the time it's great. And the times it's not, it's a quick fix. I mean, 9 times out of 10 it's shut. It's literally turn it off, turn it back on. And that's kind of the only problem. Or, you got to pick it up and go put it back on the charger. And grandma probably doesn't have a big yard, so it's going to be a relatively small mower. So the whole thing, kind of the benefits can start to show up if you can get out of your head of, it's a piece of technology, it's a robot, it's whatever. And then if you have the mindset of, I do my own work, it's my yard, I mow it, remove that side, the the fringe benefits that come along with it are kind of hard to argue with.
And it's not like lawnmowers don't, like, any lawnmower, even I still have, because it's perfectly fine, I'm not going to replace it until I need to, but like my push mower is gas. Like I have a gas push mower, because again, it work, like I'm not going to replace it until it is no longer working, but like obviously oil changes, blade sharpenings or whatever, but blade sharpenings are going to apply to any mower, right? And then right. Even when you get into electric, you're still going to have to deal with like cleaning it, like keeping debris out of it. You do have to kind of be like, okay, well, like if every lawnmower has maintenance, like does it matter? Like if I'm removing the actual, like, does the robo mower have like that much more maintenance compared to any other lawnmower? But then it just gets rid of the actual work element. Like you kind of have to think about it from that angle.
Yeah, I mean, going, even if you just look at electric push mower to gas push mower, I've over the last 10-ish years, I've moved as quickly and as far away as possible from small engines. I despise weed eaters, chainsaws, lawnmowers. The amount of years
I think the lawnmowers may only
running.
My generator and my snowblower are my other small engine things. So that's all I have. Yeah.
And so getting away from those, like because you're going out there to do work. You're going out there to do manual labor. Yes. And, in the summer you're mowing, it's hot. You're going to go out there, bugs this and then you got to go. And if you're lucky and you're good at maintenance on your motor and engine and keeping it tuned up and keeping it clean and removing the fuel in the winter and treating it and all that kind of stuff, you're probably fine. But when you go out there and it's hot and you want to be doing other things and you go out there and you fight this thing for 10 minutes, the last thing I want to do once I get it started is go work. And so being able to walk out and get my chainsaw in the dead of winter and pop the battery in it and go cut some firewood, or, go mow the yard, and all I have to do is pull the battery off the charger, stick it in the mower and go mow. It's great. Like those things are super nice, and the benefits to those. And, then you got, just the general mains, changing the oil and things like that. Yeah. You're always going to have, you're going to have to, clean the underside of the deck if you got, build up under there and sharpen the blade. But you have two things to maintain rather than the additional sides of the motor and things like that, and the other benefits to those types of things is, one, you reduce the risk of, you're not going to get burnt on the exhaust.
Right.
You run the risk of, if you don't keep the deck clean, for like a push mower or something like that, you end up, or, chainsaws, you end up with excess oil or grass clippings, things like that, get hot and catch fire. Like there's little things like that also come into it. And then you have the noise aspect of it as well, is I can be mowing along, stop, go move whatever I need, and chainsaw, I'm not going to listen to it run the whole time. Yes. I recently got I actually showed up yesterday. I got a riding zero-turn lawnmower from John Deere, the Z3 or Z263 RS or something. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's really cool. And so I'll go back to the interesting about it, but I was at an event a couple months ago in Atlanta for Greenworks, and they had a big presentation for their new Powerall tool lineup that they're doing and launching with Walmart in partnership with them. And they're showing off a bunch of other stuff, saws and riding mowers and all kinds of stuff. Like I didn't realize the breadth of products that Greenworks has now. It's insane. Like they have side by sides and ATVs and things.
Wow.
But one of the things they're talking about, no, I didn't either. But they're talking about, they had different landscapers and professionals there. And one of them was saying that the benefit he has seen by switching his landscaping fleet over to electric mowers, both push and riding, is that when something happens, they're able to communicate with the other people that are mowing because it's not loud. And he said one guy was mowing and went underneath a tree, and a wasp nest fell down out of the tree as he went underneath it, and it landed, and they were able to yell at him while he was mowing.
Oh my God.
Keep going, and he could hear them rather than having to like run out there waving their arms like there's some crazy emergency. He could just hear them and get out of the way. So like the little benefits that maybe aren't considered all the time and how they can help out is stuff like that. But on that John Deere mower, the cool thing with it is while John Deere doesn't have their own batteries like Greenworks does, so you can get a Greenworks mower and use that same battery in your chainsaw or whatever.
Yeah.
So John Deere has two electric riding mowers now, I believe. One of them is a sealed unit, sealed battery, all inside of it, charge it and go. The one that I'm testing uses Ego, which is another popular brand that uses, does mowers and, weed eaters, things like that across, out yard tools and things. So they partnered with them, and it runs off of 6 Ego batteries. And so the cool thing is so say you buy this mower, and you can then buy tool-only batteries or tool-only units from Ego, and then pull the battery out of your mower and stick it in your weed trimmer and go trim weeds. Nice. So like the flexibility and things like that are really cool. And you can buy new batteries and, have an extra set of batteries and put them in. And now batteries are expensive, but you could do that, if you run a fleet of things. But the flexibility that the battery-powered units have, and companies are realizing that batteries have become an ecosystem in their own right. And so if you create a good battery that's reliable and holds charge and has the capacity to do multiple things, just build the tools around it, and then as consumers, you hope you pick the right ecosystem, because once you're in it, you're in it, and to, like, power tool owners will relate to this really well.
I was going to say it's the DeWalt method or whatever. Like the amount of DeWalt batteries around my parents' house growing up, like 100%, and like to this day still. And like even when I got a drill, I got my own cordless drill for Christmas when I was in college or whatever, and like that thing's DeWalt, it's got 2 batteries, and like I can put those batteries on other DeWalt things. And so that's typically where I start to look when I'm shopping for something, because I know I have those batteries. And it's actually almost surprising that that some of the other, like, maybe newer companies to this, or like companies that came in to be like, we're going to be more tech focused rather than just being like, making, power, like handheld power tools. Like they had to learn the same lesson about like, battery ecosystems, even though, like, again, DeWalt definitely is familiar with battery lock-in.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Yeah. Well, you've convinced me that, like, the second there's someone else on my block with a robo mower, I gotta start looking at them at the very least, because I hadn't. It's like, I was like, man, to that point. So it takes me, counting weed whacking and any kind of cleanup after the fact. It takes me about an hour. It's about an hour to do my yard. It's not terrible. The actual act of mowing it is usually like 40-45 minutes. But that is 45 minutes I could get back.
Well, sure. And the other half of it is, you're probably, say you cut your grass to 3 inches or whatever.
Yeah.
So you're likely letting it you're letting it grow at least an inch each time, just timing and things like that. The average person isn't going to sit out there and mow their yard every other day, because that's, unless you just love that thing. That's
I'm once a
doing.
week at best, honestly. And it's we were talking about me going on. I was out of town over the weekend, and it's like I was gonna mow last week because it had been a little over a week, but the heat has been so intense that there's large parts of my yard that had stopped growing and are like essentially in hibernation. And I was like, man, if I cut this, like my especially my front yard, which it has the sun directly on it in the morning, it's gonna die. Like it's gonna be dead for like the next 2 months. And maybe that's okay, but like I have to consider that. And so we got home, and it's like, my yard, having not watered it at all this year, is greener than some of the other yards that were getting mowed on my street, because like they all roasted, and I was like, I'm just gonna let it go. And like it's not even that long. But it's certainly greener than some of the other aspects. So it's still due. It's been 2 weeks now. It's due, but no, I totally get you.
And that's one of those things I've come up against as well, is like, someone will mow a yard, and it's, it's rated at, let's say it's a smaller residential type mower, it's rated at like a third of an acre. So it's what it's rated at. And they're not fast. They're not zipping around crazy speeds or like that. And people be like, yeah, that's going to take it like 4 hours to mow my yard. I'm like, well, yeah, probably. But at the same time, if you could do it in 45 minutes, that's fine. Are you in that much of a hurry to have your yard cut? Is it 45 minutes of work you genuinely want to do? And second, unless you live in an area where you can't, because, maybe it's an HOA rule or something like that.
Right.
Most mowers can run at night, and they're silent. And some of them don't have headlights, and they like a lot of the LiDAR-based mowers don't have headlights on them. They're not bright. They have just little marker lights, and they'll mow at night. And you get them up in the morning, your yard's mowed, and you're done. Like, nothing's perfect. And if you need it mowed in 30 minutes because you have people coming over, you're going to just go out and push them over the yard. Like, that's just what it is.
Yeah. I had not thought about like, or even just like like really like wait at, 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, or even something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't thought about an overnight, and obviously
So there's an avoidance for the 5-year-old there.
But well, that's exactly what I was going to say is that, I've never seen my neighbor's kid out past like, 8 o'clock at the absolute latest, probably like they're not playing in the driveway after that. So it's like, oh, I could do that. Oh, something to consider. As long as it's, because it gets pretty dewy here, obviously, but it's, as long as it's not too wet. Times like this, dead of July, like there's not that much dew. It's pretty dry.
Yeah, I mean, catch it early evening rather than later in the evening. Yeah, it's been. We've had a very wet spring and early summer. It's rained at least twice every week, and so and then it gets hot and the humidity is insane. But yeah, in the morning, like everything is soaking wet. There's so much dew out right now, and and mowing in the evening and mowing when it's wet is, you don't want to do that anyway. So
no, it's the worst.
And most of them have. And if you tried to send it out, and the other thing is so say you wanted it to go early morning, like just before sunrise or whatever. If it's dewy, they've got rain sensors on them. And if you enable it, if there's enough dew to trigger that rain sensor, it just won't go in the first place.
One of these companies should hire you, Chris, because you're rapidly selling me. Like, you should be a salesman or a PR guy or something, because you are convinced. You're like, let me tackle all of Will's potential qualms about buying one of these. It's like, damn, he kind of did hit all of them. I mean, it's crazy.
I mean, you know this. You've been in this world long enough that when you do enough positive things, or you write positive about something a couple of times, you tend to get, you're a shill, you're getting paid for everything, and you're just saying this because they're paying you. I have not mowed my yard manually for 2 years. I save hours a week. Like, I'm just trying to help you out. Like, I'm not saying they're perfect. Trust me, there are times that I want to throw the thing across the yard, but run it over with my actual tractor, brush hog the mower. I don't care, but in the end, like, they genuinely are helpful in the right situations. As long as you have your expectations lined out, they're genuinely helpful.
It's awesome. All right. Well, we'll leave it there for now, but there's a bunch of stuff we didn't get to, and so we will have you back on, Chris, because you and I could talk for 3 more hours, I think, and probably not run out of stuff to talk about in this podcast. And again, like I said, like there was like 10 or 15 minutes that we were talking before I hit record that could have been this episode. Is what it is.
Yeah, we'll get into the fall as we come out of come out of mowing season. As we come out of mowing season, we'll catch up in the fall, and then we can throw some football talk in there too.
I was gonna say, yeah, I would love to chat football. I had to take a step back. I was like, I feel I'm in a bit of an abusive relationship with the Buffalo Bills at the moment. Perhaps an emotional manipulation kind of thing. Like the second, like I wanted Brandon Beane gone. Brandon Beane is who stayed. Sean McDermott was gone. I have, and it was not my coach. They did not pick the coach I wanted. There are a lot of elements I like, but those 2 question marks, Joe Brady and Brandon Beane, I have questions. So I have purposefully this summer tried to just establish a little bit of emotional distance between me and the Buffalo Bills.
Let's just let some of the anger settle, and we'll come back and see how things look in the fall.
It's new season, it's fine. We're almost. It's crazy that it is almost football season, but I'm extremely excited because genuinely, Maddie and I were just talking about this, about how like it's crazy because sometimes these games are the worst of the season, but how much we miss specifically Thursday night football, because it was such a it's such a good tradition to end the week of like, we know what we're watching tonight. There's a game on tomorrow's Friday. Like it's basically the weekend, and so I'm
kicks off the weekend.
Sometimes the Thursday game is good. And I actually think, for all its qualms, Amazon actually doesn't do they do a pretty good job on their broadcast. Like
they've gotten pretty good. Early on, there was some of the streaming issues
it's
in
gotten
there, but they've gotten
better.
much better.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were going to record this yesterday, and so just in honor of having the podcast with you, I'd put on a Chiefs shirt initially. So today we're going with K-State today, Wildcats today.
I'll listen. the Kansas City Chiefs shirt is on in spirit, if nothing else. I know this. Chris, where can people find you?
Yeah, I mean, my YouTube channel, Gadgets and Gravel, I'm on there. I do have, I've got TikTok and socials, but, I'm terrible at posting things there. So best place is going to be jump on there. I'm available. Because we established addiction to my phone. I'm there in the comments. If you message me, I'm 99% of the time I'm going to reply back. So that's where I'm at.
That's awesome. Gadgets and Gravel. Chris, thank you so much, man. And that'll do it again for this week's Sideload. Thank you again to Chris for joining me. We will have to have him back on soon to actually talk about more gadgets than just robo-lawnmowers. I think we're just going to have to do a winter-themed one in a few months because I do want to see if Chris is going to bundle up to record outside for a third time. The best place to reach me is will@9to5mac.com. Feedback is always welcome, as are guest suggestions. As always, you can find, rate, and review us on the podcast platform of your choice, and share the show with a friend if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to 9 to 5 Google on YouTube, where you can find full video versions of every episode of the Sideload, plus all of the excellent work being done by Damien and Jordan. And if you haven't, go check out 9 to 5 Google's other podcast, Pixelated, where Damien, Abner, and I chat about the week's news through a Google and Pixel-friendly lens. Finally, don't forget to sign up for 9 to 5 Google Pro, which nets you a whole bunch of perks for just $5 a month, including a weekly bonus podcast episode of Pixelated. We have recorded 2 of those episodes so far, and they're both really fun. I think both ended up being longer than the normal episodes of Pixelated for those weeks, and I think it's worth the entry fee just to hear Abner call Zendaya and Tom Holland a power couple. That's it for this week. We are breaking our bi-weekly schedule with a special episode next week, and until then, I will see you in the next one. Bye.